The Old Testament is what we call the law. So listen, Genesis is not Old Testament. Genesis is New Testament. Exodus to Malachi, by extension, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are Old Testament. Acts to Revelation, New Testament continuation from Genesis. Actually, the law started in Exodus 19. In the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt. The movement of the people. That's where the law of Moses started. And that is why nobody under the law could be justified. It was the law that therefore necessitated the coming of Christ, because Christ had to come and fulfill that law so that men can be justified by faith. Abraham by faith. Abel by faith. All of them by faith. Now, let me arrive at the destination of this teaching tonight. Are you blessed? Galatians chapter 3 again, verse number 18. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise. But God gave it to Abraham by promise. Next verse now, 19. Watch this. Wherefore then, serveth the law, it was added because of transgressions. The law was not God's plan. The law was added. The law was an addendum. It was not part of the plan. Why was the law added? Because of transgression. What is transgression? Rebellion against the word of God. It was added. It's not the plan. It was added because of transgression, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made, and it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. So the law was ordained by angels in the hands of Moses. So the law was an operation of Moses and the angel. Moses and the angels fabricated the law and gave it to Israel, and the angels that work with Moses were the supernatural arm of Moses' ministry under the law. So that's why if you disobey the law, you are punished by those angels. And the punishment is supernatural. That's why the ground was opening and swallowing people. Hebrews chapter 2 verse 2. For if the word spoken by angels, where did the angels speak their words? The law. The law. For if the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and under that operation, every transgression and disobedience received a just recompense of reward. Next verse. How shall we escape if we neglect the salvation that Jesus has brought? So Jesus brought his salvation to free us from the law and the punishment of the law. What was the law of Moses? Tooth for tooth, eye for eye, leg for leg. Do me, I do you. Slap me, I slap you. You draw nigh, I draw nigh. You don't draw nigh, I don't draw nigh. That's the law of Moses. If you shall hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord your God, and shall observe to do according to all that is written therein, that is when the blessing shall come. And if you disobey, curses will come. That's Moses in operation. That's Moses. So churches where there is blessing and curse in the church is Moses' church. Because that's the way Moses operates. Under Moses is blessing and curse. You touch me by mistake, you die by fire. That is Moses in operation. My father, anyone looking for my trouble, be roasted. That is Moses in operation. Because under Moses' ministry, every transgression and disobedience received a just recompense of reward. You can't go free. Any mamtia. Moses does not forgive, and the angels that walk with him. Are we teaching good? That's Moses. A pastor who stands before his church and says, if you try me, I will curse you, is wearing the regalia of who? Moses. It's Moses. That's not Christ. That's not Jesus' ministry. That is Moses' ministry. Kabayada. I'm getting blessed, I'm telling you. John chapter 5, verse 45. Do not think that I, Jesus, this is Jesus talking, I will accuse you to the Father. There is one that accuseth you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Who is the accuser of the brethren? Moses. Even Moses, in whom you trust. He's the one that accuses you. He's the one that condemns you. He's the one that makes you guilty. Moses, whom you trust. Jesus is talking. Now look at the way Jesus will end that discourse. Next verse. For, Pastor Cole, look at this one, you like it. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. So Moses wrote two things. Moses has two messages. Moses preached Christ and preached accusation. Are we clear? So that's why the book of Moses must be rightly divided, because there are two messages inside. One section of Moses' books is death. The other section is life. I said before you, life and death. You choose. That's Moses. And a preacher is not permitted to mix the two. Don't mix the two. Don't be blessing and cursing. My brother, can sweet and bitter water come out of the same fountain? You can't be cursing and blessing. You're either a blesser or a curser. Light and darkness cannot operate in the same house. Moses preached Christ and accusation. Moses himself said, if now that I am with you people, you are behaving like this, how much more when I go? He said, you are a froward children in whom there is no faith. So because you don't have faith, take law. Moses wrote the law. It was not God that wrote the law. The law of Moses is not God. The law of Moses is Moses' property. John 1:17. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Question: what does Jesus bring? Grace and truth. What does Moses bring? Law. What follows the law? Sin and death, condemnation, guilt, accusation. What does Jesus bring? Grace, which is truth. Matthew chapter 5, verse number 28, because of time. Follow the reading. I'll read, then I will explain. Let's start from 27. You have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say, who is saying now? Jesus, okay? Who are those that said of old time? Good. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. Next verse. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast. Who said this? Who is Jesus quoting? Moses. Wait, 31. What Jesus was saying is, if you people are really following the law of Moses, there should be people with amputated hands among you, and people without eyes among you. So since all of you have your hands intact and eyes intact, if you preach law, you are a hypocrite. Any of you preaching law and nobody in your congregation's hand or leg has been removed, and they have their eye intact, you yourself, the preacher, you are a hypocritical preacher. Because if you are really following the law, there should be people already whose hands you have chopped off and whose eyes you have plucked. That means Muslims are more faithful than you. Because in Islam, if you steal and you're caught, they take out your hand and they don't play with it. Because they removed Moses' law and made it part of Islamic religion. And they follow the law well. But you are a pastor preaching law and everybody have their eye intact. Meanwhile, in your church, brothers are busy looking at women, and you have never caught one to remove his eye. And you say you are a preacher defending the law. You are in defense of the gospel. You are defending Moses. And everybody in your church, their eyes are intact and their hands are intact, including you yourself. All of you are hypocrites.